ألم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق فلا يعقلون وما علمناه شعر ما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون ولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناهم من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر ألا أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله.
الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذللها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال قاضٍ متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضعا قانيا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتد فاقته وانزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجنت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرعت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاد من البلاء أقلت وكم من عثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أعمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بخيانتها وميتوني. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دوائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملت في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأهوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور أتوفا. إلهي ومولاي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت في هوى نفسي ولم أهترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في ساعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي، يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي، يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك، هيهات أن تكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا، وعلى ضمائر هوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جواري أسات الأوطان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذنة ما هكذا الذنوب، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي، وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثور يسير بقاء قصير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي، فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين، يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لعليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته، فلئن سيرتني في العقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي، صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين، ولا صرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولو نادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي وضاق طعم عذابها بمعصيتي وهبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرتي وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العظام وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورأفتك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يهرق لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوت وترى مكانا؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربا؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين يقتو لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهدك وقضيت به من إكلاد معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مكاما لكنك تكدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من علي أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل أملت كتمت وأعلنت أخفيته وأظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر هذي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أهوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواره واشدد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارد ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك واقربهم منزلة منك وخصم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك ليجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وقلني أثرتي واغفر لي زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس مالي الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابق النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستحيشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
देती शब्बीर तेरी गुरबत की कसम मैं तुझको फतन पहुंचा देती افسوس یہ دیس پر آیا ہے، ورنہ میں تمہاری میت پر انبار لگا تھی کھلیوں کی بھولوں کامی برسا دیتی شبیر تیری غربت کی قسم میں تجھ کو وطن پہنچا دیتی عباس کے وہ شہ پر بازو کرتے نہ کلم ملعون اگر تطہیر کی چادر کے کتنے پرچم غازی کو بنا دیتی شبیر تیری غربت کی قسم میں تجھ کو وطن پہنچا دیتی شبیر تجھے معلوم تو ہے رسی سے بندے ہے ہاتھ میرے گھر ہاتھ کھولے ہوتے میرے میں لاش تیری دفنا دیتی شبیر تیری غربت کی قسم میں تجھ کو وطن پہنچا دیتی کوثر یہ کسے حق حاصل ہے تحریر نبی کی چاک کرے امت کو اگر منظور نہ تھا زہرا کو سند لوٹا دیتی شبیر تیری غربت کی قسم میں تجھ کو وطن پہنچا دیتی کوثر سے تجھے چیٹے دیتی زمزم سے تجھے نہلا دیتی محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صل
محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يعدي حقه المجتهدون الذين بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى الصلاة والسلام على الرسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا سيدنا مولانا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم ومبغضيهم وغاصب حقوقهم من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد. I once again begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, Merciful. For all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this wonderful existence and for giving us once again this opportunity to be the azadar of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. On that note, I say Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad sallallahu alayka ya mawlaya ya Aba Abdullah ya Jafar ibn Muhammad أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهان عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. This occasion, my brothers and sisters, like any other occasion, where we commemorate the wafat of our sixth Imam, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, because of our affiliation to this Imam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is a leader and a founder of a school of thought that we all subscribe to. Now, if we see the background during the time of Imam Jafar Sadiq, I mean, this is one Imam who lived at the time of the Banu Umayyah, all the Khulafa of Banu Umayyah, and two Khulafa of Banu Abbas. At that time, when his Imamate started, for decades, the Banu Umayyah, they were in power, the Amawi dynasty. And they made sure that Islam, they made sure that Islam was distorted. They did not want the world or the people of the world for that Islam to reach them, which is the true Islam. So, and they made sure that there was no trace of life in Islam during the period of their rule. And this is basically that we affiliate ourselves as Ja'fari to that community of Ja'fari is because this is the personality, that soul, the holy soul that revived this religion. I mean, you know what? If at that time, if he would not have been given a chance to revive this religion for that few years that he had at his command, believe me, we would not have a true Islam in the world. We would have been that Islam that belongs to ISIS or the Taliban or the Salafis or Takfiris or whatever. It is his blessing, and it's Allah's blessing that this correct version of Islam reached us. Now the Umayyad Caliph, starting from Muawiyah, Abi Sufyan, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, all the way to the end, and then there was a power struggle, and then the Banu Abbas took over, and they were no good either. Because who's the worst of the two? Who's the worst of the two evil, as we say? So these Khulafa of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas, they did not believe in anything at all. For example, I'll give you an example, the time that Imam Jafar Sadiq lived. Abu Aswad ad-Duwali, he says, I came to visit Muawiyah during his time of caliphate. He's the king. And he said, I saw in his palace, he was drinking from the cups made out of silver and gold. Now look at the attitude, you see? Look at the attitude at that time. If it wouldn't have been the sacrifice of Imam Jafar Sadiq, I don't know what would have been our position today. So he says, I told him, Ya Muawiyah, I've myself heard the Prophet say that it is prohibited to drink from these cups made from silver and gold. And I witnessed the Prophet say that. Because Abu Aswad at that time was there at the time of the Prophet. He was the tail end of the life of the Prophet. And Muawiyah responds and says, La ba'sa fiha. What does it matter? Amma an fala Arabi iba'asa, that there is no issue. It is my opinion against his. You see the attitude? He says, it's my opinion against the prophets. That whether I drink in silver cups or whether I drink in clay cups, it's my opinion. And the Prophet has got his own opinion, so he can keep it to himself. Look at the attitude. This is Abu Aswad ad-Duwali. It's a different. Another scenario, one of the caliphs who would claim to be a representative of the Prophet. You see, I'm giving you a scenario, in this type of scenario that Imam lived. One of the caliphs who would claim to be a representative of the Prophet as God's shadow, Lillullah, God's shadow on earth, the so-called representative of Islam. He would lead the Muslim Ummah when he goes to Hajj. Like he would be the Mutawwa, the leader of that caravan, Hajj, from his seat of authority. Then he's traveling towards performing Hajj, and he becomes the Amir of the Hujjaj, of the group of Hujjaj, those people who are with him, like a representative of the Prophet. He used to call himself a representative of the Prophet. He would go and lead the congregational prayer, al-ayadhu billah, while he was drunk and intoxicated. These are the khulafa of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas. And this is the time that Imam Jafar Sadiq lived. And while he was in the state of janaba from performing zina, these are the types of caliph that we have in Islamic history. But nobody talks about it. After committing adultery, he commits zina, and in this state of janaba, also not even taking the ceremonial bath, he goes to lead the congregational prayer. One day he was so drunk with his slave girl, his bondmaid, and azan time entered. So the slave girl reminds him that, Ya Baba, it's time to pray. It's prayer time. You need to go and lead the jama'ah. You are the caliph. You're supposed to lead the congregational prayer. And he told this girl, he said, I'm too drunk. How about you wear my dress and turban? I'll give you my seat of caliphate, my ring of the seal of caliphate, and then cover yourself and go and lead the prayers. And this slave girl is drunk as well. And she agrees and she goes. The best thing, she agrees and she goes. And we all know that it's prohibited for even a woman to lead the salah, Salatul Jum'ah, where men are praying. Women, they pray, it's fine, women to women. But a woman cannot lead that Salatul Jama'ah where men are praying together with women. And it's prohibited to lead that Salatul Jum'ah. But nonetheless, she goes. She leads the congregational prayer while she was drunk. And the best part is this was the Fajr time in the morning. And instead of offering 2 units of Salatul Fajr, she offered 17. She made them pray 17. And the Muslims, like donkeys, they followed her. I mean, there is no one to question her or question that person in the mihrab. Hello, Baba, what is happening here? There's nobody. Silence. But because she was so intoxicated, instead of 2 units, she offers 17 rak'at. 17. And Muslims are following her, like not knowing who they of course didn't know who the Imam is because she was all covered up. When she finished this 17 rak'ah, 17 cycles of prayers, she threw up in the mihrab, in the masjid. She throws up the alcohol she had consumed and falls unconscious. And when she falls unconscious, the Muslims came to the rescue of the Imam, thinking that this is the Khalifa, and only to find that it's a woman. That's when they found out that it's a woman that has led the congregational prayer. The Muslims came to the rescue of this. And funny enough, she was wearing the seal, the ring of the seal of the Khalifa at that time. This is how the status of affairs was when Banu Umayyah ruled and when Banu Abbas ruled. For decades, perhaps, for a whole century, Muslims did not have proper access to Islamic knowledge, the true Islamic knowledge. They did not have access to real Islam. All they could see and deal with was the fabricated Islam. The machinery that started churning out fake hadiths and fake tradition started in the time of Muawiyah. And of course, it continued. Because you can see even in the books today, the Muslim books, Abdullah ibn Abbas, of course, is one of those narrators who's very authentic we also accept his traditions and they accept his traditions. But you see Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira has churned out thousands and thousands of hadiths when he was just companion of the Prophet for 2 years before the Prophet died, or maybe 1 year. He accepted Islam. But you will not find any hadith or any tradition from these 12 Imams of ours. Qala Ali ibn Abi Talib, there is nothing. Qala al-Hasan, nothing. Qala al-Hussein, there is nothing. Such a pathetic state of affairs, my brothers and sisters. Today, the teachings of Islam. And for 34 years, now this is what he did. You see, now he had an advantage because now the power of Banu Umayyah was waning and Banu Abbas were trying to take power. There was a power struggle between these two dynasties. And for 34 years, this is what he did, because now these two parties were so much in conflict with each other that they paid less attention to Ahlul Bayt. And this was that, a period of, we can say, where he had time to breathe and bring out that, that pure knowledge of the Prophet that has descended from the Prophet to him, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And it is him who revived the religion of Rasulullah. That is why we are known as Ja'faris. We are affiliated with this Imam. The Imam says in a beautiful hadith, he says that if my followers, if they do good, if they are God conscious, if they fear Allah, if they are truthful all the time, trustworthy and honest, I feel proud of them. This is one of his hadiths. So I feel proud for however few we are. But this message is from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. This instills joy in my heart. When we talk to youngsters today, the youth, the young boys and girls, that this is right and this is wrong, don't do this and don't do that, that might not be a great incentive to drive them to do good, but you tell them, for example, in the madrasas, when you say that this is halal and this is haram, we tell them that your imam becomes happy if you listen to your parents, for example. The imam that you love. You are instilling a joy in the heart of Imam Zamana, our living imam today. If we inculcate this type of teaching in madrasas to the boys and girls in the heart, that your imam becomes happy. Today, your living imam becomes happy. If you are submissive to God, this is different. Then they feel that someone, or there is some supervision. You see, it has to be instilled right from that young age, that there is some sort of a supervision to have that light and the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their lives. They have a sense of kind of a supervision of an imam, that an imam is watching us. And it is a verse in the Quran. We just don't say like that. Surah Tawbah, Surah Barat, as they call it. This is the Surah Tawbah. It's without Bismillah, this surah. He said, قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهَ أَعْمَلُوا وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Whatever you do, now this is a challenge of the Quran, whatever you do. There are three parties and three entities that have complete oversight, means that they are watching you. Whatever you do, there are three entities and souls that are watching you. The first is, of course, without a doubt, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is Quran. Sometimes we get carried away, but we need to remind ourselves that first is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's watching our actions. The second is the Prophet. You see, they say, Mata Muhammad, Prophet has died. But Quran says, no, he's watching over you. And this is present continuous and future continuous. From past to present to future continuous. That is what the Quran is. That even whatever actions we do, that even the Prophet is watching over us, over our actions, and the mu'mineen. Not mu'mineen like you and me. For like me, for example, a sinner. Not me, because I don't know what you are doing in private. And the Quran it's referring to a certain group of people. I am not aware of what you do. Wal-mu'mineen, it says, وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. But according to the Quran, there are a group of people, wal-mu'minun, they have complete oversight what we do. And this is why the narration tells us that every Thursday night, for example, tonight, and Friday before Jum'ah, all our actions and all our amal are presented in like a parchment or a document to Imam al-Zamana on a Friday before Salatul Jum'ah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It is a very strong hadith, very mu'tabar hadith, this, that every Friday, our living Imam, whoever follows him, whoever loves him, the Shias all over the world, by the millions, he looks at their amals in a parchment. The angels, they give him a parchment where he looks at what we have done during the whole week from Jum'ah to Juma like a document. Our deeds and our actions are recorded and presented to Imam of our time. He reads it, and Imam says that if you do good, if your actions are good more than your evil actions, makes me very happy. Joy enters our heart. But if we are evildoers, then Imam says, you bring shame and dishonor to me. Said it reflects upon me. You might not know, but it reflects upon me. So my brothers and sisters, Imam Sadiq says that if you act otherwise, if you are not a good person, dishonor and shame comes upon the Imam, because people say that look at him, he belongs to the school of thought of Jafari, Imam Jafar. So everything reflects back to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, just a few quotes I would like to see, very knowledgeable sayings of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that maybe we can, apply in our day-to-day lives. Some of the narrations that Imam Sadiq has, all inclusive. Imam says, if you are in pursuit of Jannah, you are in pursuit of paradise, and as well if you are in pursuit of all-inclusive social status, respect in this world, respect in the community, and pursuit of a good livelihood, he says, follow my teachings. He has given us a guideline that follow my teachings. Now, when Imam says, when he speaks, he's not churning out words from his own pocket, because Imam famously said that if I say something, these words are my father's words and his words are his father's words. This leads all the way to the Prophet himself, and the Prophet's words are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word. I don't speak anything of my own unless it's substantiated by the Prophet and Allah himself. That's why we, as his believers and lovers, we should not take his words lightly. He says, لِطَلَبْتُ الْجَنَّةِ طَلِبْتُ الْجَنَّةِ. If I am in pursuit of paradise, I seek to enter paradise, what do I do? Imam says, فَوَجَدْتُهَا فِي السَّخَاءِ. You should have that quality of being generous. Even if you have little, have that quality of being generous. Generosity brings about, you purchase Jannah with generosity, to be generous. Then it says, وَطَلِبْتُ الْعَافِيَةِ. A pursuit of good health, I found good health. Good health is found in reclusivity. Reclusivity means what? I will tell you. To be reclusive. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let me give you a small example. We are very vibrant in social life, and we need to talk. And you know what, brothers and sisters, we talk a lot. We talk a lot. I would call it, we have lots of verbal diarrhea. We talk a lot. And it's said that man speaks around 15,600 words per day. This is, go on Google and you'll find it. And women, they speak around 16,400 words per day. Now, the hadith says that if you want to avoid trials and tribulations and musibah and problems in your life, not to befall you, why? It is because of this tongue. So this is known as reclusive. Open your mouth and talk only when it is required. Something that I say, the statement that I make, even unintentionally, hurts someone. I have not thought about it. And it goes and hurts someone, pierces through some people's heart, people's mind. Sometimes, it happens that they cannot even forget. On a smaller level, it has happened in this community. People, they say, and it's not forgotten. These words, they rebound and come back to haunt us. Like the Canadians, what they say? Karma comes back to bite. Karma comes back to bite. It's exactly what happens. When we open our mouth too much, this is what the hadith says. If you control your mouth, Imam says, if you control your tongue, this will give you immunity from all the problems and all the difficulties in life. Because we mingle with other people, and in most of the cases we have nothing much to say apart from empty rhetoric, apart from commenting about other people, discussing other people. And this is the cause of our misery, my brothers and sisters. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this is one of it. Then he says, if you are looking for health, immunity from tribulations, from bala, from problems, reclusivity, and that's reclusivity means control the mouth, control the tongue. وَطَلِبْتُ الثَّقَلَ الْمِيزَانِ. On the day of judgment, now he's talking about the day of judgment. The barzakh, which leads to the day of judgment when we die, is going to be thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, maybe. We don't know. That leads to the day of judgment. But on the day of judgment, the scales will be brought. He says, وَطَلِبْتُ ثَقَلَ الْمِيزَانِ. When the scales are brought, not in the literal physical sense, but our good deeds will be weighed against the bad deeds on that day. And the Quran says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. If our good deeds do not match up with our bad deeds, but believe me, we are damned. If the bad deed side outweighs the good, we are finished, my brothers and sisters. Allah, in His ultimate mercy, may forgive us. But if you take it at face value, we are doomed. So he says, I realize that this testimony, and then he says, if you are looking for a heavy scale on the side where your good deeds are always placed over your bad deeds, they outweigh your bad deeds, then you have to be against your bad deeds. That فَوَجَدْتُ فِي شَهَادَةِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَمُحَمَّدٌ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ وَسَلَامُ عَلَيْهِ. And he says this testimony, that statement we make, that you are bearing witness that there is no God. What is the meaning when he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadur Rasulullah? Why? Why does he say that? He said it should be your true direction, that therefore whatever you want to do, first thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He has given you that tawfiq and that guidance and that wisdom to do good. So thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And I am doing it for Allah. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with me or not? You know what they say? That when you do charity with your right hand, your left hand should not know. This is what it means. This is what makes scale and mizan heavy on the day of judgment. Every action you do, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He wants, He will portray it out to the masses. But we don't have to show it, that I am so generous. I gave $1 million here and I gave $500,000 there. No. The Imam says, وَطَلِبْتُ السُّرْعَةَ فِي دُخُولِ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. I want an expedited processing of my, of going into Jannah. This is the thing. That whatever you do, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And do it lillahi ta'ala. And because Imam says the day of judgment, he has reminded us that it's not a single day like we have a 24-hour day. It's a reminder for us. يَوْمَ كَانَ مِقْدَارُ خَمْسُونَ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ. He said to his companions. That day is equivalent to 50,000 years of this earth. 50,000, one day of our time. Now, how many years did we get? 100 years? 200 years. Probable, but not impossible. Maximum. I yet have to find someone who has lived 200 years. I had a clip, I saw someone in India living 127 years. But yet we have to find someone who has lived for 200 years. But let's just give it a benefit of doubt. That our life, maximum 200 years, inshallah. May Allah grant us that long life, inshallah. So we only get to live in this world for maximum 100, 200 years. Imagine 50,000 years on the day of judgment. Qiyamah. And you have all the people, billions and trillions of people ahead of us, they are being judged. And there is a checkpoint. He says there is that bridge that we have to cross, the Sirat, as we say. That bridge leads towards the gates of Jannah. And Imam says this, that in that bridge that we will cross, it's not just that we toddle over there. No. He says every person who will cross that bridge, will take him 1,000 years to cross that bridge. Because there will be a checkpoint everywhere where your good deeds and your deeds in this world will be weighed. Your actions of this world will be weighed. And that to cross that Pul-e-Sirat, sometimes we hear Pul-e-Sirat and we see, I will just trot on a pony maybe. No. Imam says 1,000 years because of the checkpoints that you need to cross over the Sirat that runs over the inferno to paradise. Each checkpoint will take 1,000 years plus for us to go. Now, if I want to reach paradise quickly, people will say that paradise, they will see it from afar. The people on the day of judgment, he says, they will see that paradise from afar. And I wish to reach there quickly. Imam says, فَوَجَدْتُ عَمَلِ لِلَّهِ. You do everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the bottom line, foundation of our actions. That's the teaching of Imam Jafar Sadiq. That's our teaching. Even those things that, we don't seem to, for example, pertaining for our religion, our relationship. For eating our food, he also talked about eating food. He said, you have to be so careful about eating food that whatever is in your plate, you make sure that it has come from that halal earning and not haram earning. I mean, it's a very precarious situation here, my brothers and sisters. I have cheated someone and got money. Deceit, I got money. I made a fool out of someone and got that money. And then I make that food in my house. It's questionable on the day of judgment. So he says, لِيَكُونَ لَكَ فِي كُلِّ شَيْءٍ نِيَّةٍ. I want to eat food. How can I make my intention that I eat food lillahi ta'ala? I eat food in order to gain strength, resulting in worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That food has to be pure. The clothes that I wear has to be pure from my legal earnings. This is a teaching. So intention is the key. And then he says, talibtul hubb al-maut. I wish death. Nobody loves to die, including me. None of us. You ask anyone, you want to die? Are you fond of dying? They say, no. I want to live. Allah, let him grant me more life. Right? وَتَلِبْتُ الْمَوْتِ He says, تَلِبْتُ حُبَّ الْمَوْتِ. If I wish death to be joyful and pleasant experience for me, generally death is not a pleasant experience. People hate death. I'm not aware of any person till today who finds death to be joyful, except our 14 Masumin. They are exceptional. Or a pleasant transition to next world. Why? Because we attach and love this world too much and stronger. Our attachment is the more difficult to this world, it will be more difficult for us to make the transition into the hereafter. We have to lessen our attachment to this world, my brothers and sisters, to this world. Transition will become easier. The strongest attachment that we have now, wealth, money. When I will relate my personal incident. I don't even want to name the scholar. If I name the scholar, you will all know. I was there. An old man was dying and the scholar was there. And his sakarat was so long that he just could not give up his soul. It was very difficult for him to give up his soul. And this scholar of ours, very bright and intellectual. And they told him that, we don't know why, he's about 90 years old and he's not giving up his soul. It is very difficult, that sakaratul maut for him to pass into the world. So he asked, is there anything in this house that he used to love so much? And they said, yes. What it is, bring it. So they brought a box. In the box, covered in a handkerchief, were gold and diamond. So the scholar takes it out. I was watching. I was very young, but I remember this incident. He takes it out and places it in his hands and says, take this. And the moment he felt this, he passed away. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. See, this is the attachment at the time of death, my brothers and sisters. And he passed away. So we have to, You have to train yourself. We have to train ourselves to make death, Sakaratul Maut, easy for us. We have to train ourselves. And the Quran says in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Surah Al-Baqarah also, if you are a true friend of God, فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you love Allah and you are on the right path, then wish for death to come. If you are truthful. وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا. This is also for us, not only for the Jews at that time. But you will never ever wish, because our attachment to this world is so deep. It is so serious, my brothers and sisters, that we will never wish to die. Not why? Because you know that if you are a true follower of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, what he says, Al-Mautun bu'a fashtarihi. Imam Ali used to say, he's in Rahjul Balagha. He says, if maut, if death was to be purchased, I will buy it. This is, he talks about death. Look at him. He loves death. And he says, if maut was available in the stores, I will go and buy it. Ashtariha. And Imam Ali says, I would buy death. I want to die. Now Imam says, if you want death to be a pleasant experience, فَوَجَّتُهُ فِي تَقْدِيمِ مَالِ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. You need to be more and more generous and charitable so that transition becomes more easier, for otherwise it's going to be very difficult. You know, in one of his khutbahs, I'm sure you've read it in Nahjul Balagha number 32 or 33. One governor of his during the time of Caliphate of Imam Ali, he was a staunch lover of Imam Ali, Osman ibn Hunayf. I'm sure you heard his name. And then what happened was, once he made this slight, it was not a mistake. The rich people of Basra, they held a banquet in his honor. He is the governor of Imam Ali. And he went there with the rich people to eat. And Imam Ali came to know of this, and he was so, I won't say he was hurt. You know, that anxiety took him up, and he writes a letter. And he admonishes him that, what have you done? Usman, don't you know that there are so many poor people that do not even have a piece of bread? And you went to eat with these feast with the rich people? And then he says, I am your Imam. قَدْ اكْتِفَاكُمْ مِنْ دُنْيَاكُمْ بِتِمْرَيْنِ وَمِنْ طَعَامِكُمْ بِفُرْسَيْنِ. He says, me as your Imam, I have contented myself with 2 pieces of old cloth and 2 pieces of bread, one in the morning and one in the evening. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is the detachment, the reclusivity that Imam had from this world. And he is guiding Osman ibn Hunayf. قَدْ اكْتِفَى مِنْ دُنْيَاكُمْ بِتِمْرَيْنِ وَمِنْ طَعَامِكُمْ بِفُرْسَيْنِ. Me, Ali, I am the king, I am the emperor. 50 nations, Muslim nations under him. And I have contented myself with 2 pieces of cloth, and that also old, and 2 pieces of bread. So, وَجَدْتُ فِي تَقْدِيمِ الْمَالِ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. You need to be more generous, charitable. So, our transition from this world is not difficult. Make it easier on ourselves. وَطَلِبْتُ الْحَوَاوَةِ الْعِبَادَةِ وَوَجَدْتُهَا فِي تَرْقِ الْمَعَاسِيَ. And if you want your worship to taste sweet, you want contentment when you worship. You know that the pious people, the awliya, that wake up in the middle of the night, reduce sins. Taraktul ma'asiya, reduce sins. You want that beauty, that after namaz you have that contentment that, Ya Allah, I feel so good. Reduction of sins. This comes with reduction of sins. That is why we spend hours saying, sometimes al-af, 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 that Allah forgive me. One brilliant scholar, in fact, he's still living, 95 years old. I had the opportunity to pray behind him in Qum a few years ago that I was in ziyarah to Iran. His name is Musa Shubairi, Ayatollah Musa Shubairi. Brilliant scholar, brilliant. Ayatollah Musa Shubairi Zanjani, very down-to-earth, humble scholar. He is kind of that scholar that when we say that there is a person who is sick, very sick, We don't know whether he's going to leave or recite a Surah Fatiha, Shifa Marda, for example, or Ma Yujibu. We don't know that after reciting Surah Fatiha, it's going to help him or no. But this man, he is on that level that he used to go and touch. He goes and touches the head of that sick person, and that sick person starts feeling better immediately. That is the level of piety, my brothers and sisters. That is the level of piety. He is in Kum. You know it. And he used to say, like I say, تعطي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء. He used to recite this. وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء. He used to recite this in his. He recites this in his scholars say, in his Salatul Layl, Tahajjud. You know Namaz al-Shab? That if you give me respect, no one can take it away. And if you make me fall down, no one can make me stand up. This is Ayatollah Musa Zanjani. So these are the things that our Imam said. You know that contentment that we get sometimes in Ibadah when I worship God, you know. Just now, Imran Jafar recited that Dua Kumel in his melodious voice. It's supposed to bring us content, but you know, sometimes I feel, Abhi kya re pata usse? Huh? Kya re khalas kar se? Means there is something wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. But I don't have that contentment because my sins are so high that Dua Kumel, that Dua Nudba is not hitting my heart. Dua Nudba, we sit for 25 minutes here and say, okay, when is it going to finish? When is it going to finish? Ya Allah. So, my brothers and sisters, these are the teachings of Imam Jafar Sadiq. These are the treasures of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. When the time of prayers entered at the time of the Prophet, he said, Ar-Rahna ya Bilal. You know what is Ar-Rahna? In Swahili we say Furaha, means to be happy, to be joyful, Furaha. Ar-Rahna ya Bilal. Instill joy in our hearts. How? Go and proclaim the Azan, so that we can pray. You see, this is Ibadah. That it instills joy in our heart, my brothers and sisters. If you want your du'as to be accepted, your amals to be accepted, reduce the sins and control your tongue. This is what it is. Unfortunately, you know, there is so much that we can talk about Imam Jafar Sadiq. You know, about his students and the sciences that he taught. Maybe tomorrow in the khutbah of Jum'ah, maybe I will try and enumerate his contributions. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Finally, Imam Sadiq, before his death, he was poisoned by the second Abbasid Caliph. I told you he lived through so many khilafas, and this was the second khilafah of Banu Abbas. Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, he is also known as Mansur al-Dawanaki. You see the torture that he gave to the Imam, Allahu Akbar. He made him travel from Medina to Baghdad 7 times, so means 14 times up and down. And at that time, there are no cycles, there are no buses, there are no cars. You know how difficult it is to travel on a donkey or a horse or on a camel? The distance between Medina and Baghdad, don't know, 1,000 miles maybe. And to travel 14 times? And he used to make him suffer like that, this Mansur al-Dawanaki. No vehicles, no flight, no buses, no trains. Each trip took him several weeks, outbound and inbound, means months, from Medina to Baghdad. And he was summoned 7 times. When he arrives in the palace of Al-Mansur al-Dawanaki, it is not a banquet for him. He has brought him, the Mansur chides him, defames him, abuses him, criticizes him, and threatens him until a day he came that Imam died because of severe poisoning by the hand of this Mal'un. It was the year 25th of Shawwal, Monday. This was a Monday, 25th of Shawwal, year 148 Hijrah, in the city of Medina, and he was buried in the graveyard of Baqi. His last statement to us, the Shia, he said on his deathbed was, Ya Shi'atuna, la tanalu shafa'atuna, yawm al-qiyamati mustakhifun bisalati. Our helpers, our lovers, our intercession, our help will not reach out to a person or to my believer and my follower who ignores his prayers. And these were the last words, who takes his prayers lightly. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to follow the tradition of this Imam, and we send our condolences to our 12th Imam on the martyrdom of his grandfather, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, ala wa la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
ماتم حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا گھر کا گھر لٹا خیمہ تک جلا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ جس کو کہ نبی بذات منی اس کا گھر جلے آہ مومنین در قدر گرا در تک لگا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا جو کہ ہو امیر مومنین کا اس پہ ہو یہ ظلم و مصیبتا سرد و ٹکرے ہو در ذکر خدا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا و محمدا و مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم سینے مصطفیٰ پہ جو ہوئے سوار اس کا زہر سے سینہ ہو فغار اور ہوئے سبز رنگ جسم کا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا جس کی شان میں ہو سور حل عطا بے غذا رہے وہ وا مصیبتا پانی تک نہ دے اس کو بے خطا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا جس کو رب کہے زین العابدین تو اسے پہنائے ظالم بے دین اس تو کے آہنی سے چیدے گلا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ظلم جفا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا وا محمدا وا مصیبتا آل مصطفیٰ پہ ہو جو صادق آل مصطفیٰ وہ بھی جگ سے زیر سے گیا हो जो सादिक आले मुस्तफ़ा, वो भी जग से ज़हर से गया। आगे क्या कहे लरसती है ज़बां, आले मुस्तफ़ा पे ज़ुल्म ए जफ़ा। वा मुहम्मदा वा मुसीबता, वा मुहम्मदा वा मुसीबता, आले मुस्तफ़ा पे ज़ुल्म ए जफ़ा। आगे फ़तहाली क्या करे बयां, ग़ैब हो गए साहिब ज़मान, ज़ुल्म ज़ालिमों का यहाँ तक बरा। आले मुस्तफ़ा पे ज़ुल्म ए जफ़ा, वा मुहम्मदा वा मुसीबता, वा मुहम्मदा वा मुसीबता, आले मुस्तफ़ा पे ज़ुल्म ए जफ़ा। अला अर्वाह المؤمنين والمؤمنات صواب الفاتحة.
عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة علي بن الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة شهداء عليهم السلام. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله ووداه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي، طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. زيارة أبو الفضل العباس عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك، فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع والنخي المجيب إلى طاعة ربي الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. والهكك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك